This one's for you.
This one is for you, yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of Wilds and Water Sailing. This week we explore Edith Harbour at Dundas Island before sailing off towards Stevens Island and the Squattery Anchorage. Last episode, after spending nearly a week exploring parts of Dinghy Island, including this beautiful white sand beach at Far West Point, we decided the coast was clear to head on out of our safe nook at the Qlawdzeet Anchorage and towards Dundas Island. Since the forecast was calling for some settled weather, we chose to make a quick stop at the stunning and somewhat uncharted Conlee Island group. We spent most of the afternoon hanging with the locals before continuing on toward our destination at Edith Harbour. Our first dinghy mission took us further into the harbour and into the next small bay, where we figured we'd do some bushwhacking. We had seen another nice beach over on the small neighbouring island, and were curious if we could access it by walking across the shallow channel at low tide.
Oh my gosh, that made me real nervous. Confined spaces! Ah! Yeah.
As you can see, there was just a little bit too much water for a casual stroll across the channel, and rather than risk a serious boot flooding incident, we decided to carry on exploring the rocky terrain here on Dundas instead.
Captain Conlee and Princess Muoi's follow camp.
How about Princess Brooke's follow camp?
Yeah, I'm a princess too.
What are Brooke and Muoi gonna get up to this afternoon? Surfboard!
That's not a surfboard, that's a boat.
That's a surfboard.
It is not, it's part of a boat.
Nah, a surfboard.
It is not a surfboard.
Surfboard, see, it's a SS. It's a boat. Looking awfully green after this week.
Hello, GBs. they?
No glass balls today.
Not so far. Not looking good.
What is it?
Part of a glass bottle.
Oh my, how did he get here?
The ocean.
No.
I think so. It's got a little barnacle on it.
You think the ocean brought it here?
Maybe.
Just like that? And it smashed on the rocks?
Maybe.
And that's where it
somebody was-
lies.
What?
That's where it lays.
Or maybe somebody was up there drinking in the bush. Gloop, 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 gloop. And they're like, watch out, Bark, and throw this.
Woo!
Smash all over the rocks. And then a little barnacle grew on it.
Now it's home for a barnacle.
I'm gonna put this little barnacle back down.
After a pretty decent trek around, of course checking all the catchment areas for glass balls while we were at it, we decided to carry on dinghying a bit further on into the harbour. Near the north end of the harbour, there are a number of small passages, too narrow and rocky for anything besides a kayak or canoe to make it through. As the tide changes, the water spills from the larger bodies through these corridors, picking up speed as it cascades along cobbles and smooth boulders, drawing with it forests of kelp caught in the current as the flow moves out toward the open sea.
We are sailing from Dundas Island, Edith Harbour, to North Stevens Island. What's the anchorage there called?
I can't pronounce it.
How do you spell it?
I can't spell it either.
What does it start with?
Q.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's really hard to pronounce. And there's like a colloquial local name for it that we it's totally different than how it's spelled anyway, so not even gonna try. We're going to North Stevens Island. Got about 10 knots of wind now. Just aft the beam, and beautiful day, sunshine. Sunshine's warm, breeze is cold, but it is pretty nice nonetheless. I'll just sit back and enjoy the ride and hope the wind sticks around.
This is just outflow winds right now, so we'll see what happens when we get further south.
Muoi, how you doing? Having a good time?
Smaller spinning really hard. Jim.
Yeah.
We still had about 10 nautical miles to go until we reached our anchorage at Stevens Island, and as the outflow winds began to calm, we decided it was a great excuse to hoist the Jenniker. When we arrived at the anchorage, we realized it was not much of an anchorage at all. There was little room aside from the area where an old yacht club dock had once been. This was our first experience tying Acklet up to pilings like this, so we didn't get much footage of it. But as you can likely imagine, it was a little bit of a challenge. First we had to launch the dinghy and put the motor on. Then, as Conlee drove Acklet, I first ran the line from a cleat on the bow around the pilings and back to another cleat. Once secured, I moved to the back, running one cleated line out towards the pilings on our stern. With little room between rocks and shallow water, and with the slight current in the bay, Conlee maneuvered Acklet, making sure she stayed straight. After I had finished running the stern line out and back, Conlee put the engine in neutral. He grabbed the end of the stern line I had returned with and wrapped it around the winch, tightening it up as much as it would go. Welcome to the Squattery Anchorage at the north end of Stevens Island.
Hi, Brooke.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good, you?
Good.
What you gonna go do?
Push the lines up the dolphins.
Dolphins? Like the mammal?
Like the wooden posts going into the ocean that are not attached to land.
Really? That's
what those are called? What an odd name. What a really odd name.
It is an odd name.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
We have got our lines adjusted and ready for high tide. Not full moon quite yet, but in a day or two. So swings are getting bigger. This is our first time tying up to these dolphins, which is like more than one piling. Yeah, we've got 2 lines out off our bow, one to each of our 4 cleats, and then we've got one off of our stern as well. We just raise them up a bit so that they'll hopefully kind of allow for that tide swing to happen. So yeah, we'll see. It's a beautiful night though. Holy moly. As per usual, a forecasted gale was fast approaching, so we took the next day as a great opportunity to get in our first hike. This portion of the island had so much to offer. The previously cleared and utilized areas under the forest canopy were covered in moss and false lily of the valley. It felt oh so much like spring in all its lush green glory. In order to begin our ascent, we needed to walk along the estuary towards the mouth of the creek. After that, there was no defined trail, only the odd game trail that wound off through the thick understory. We picked our way up through the forest among tall shrubs, skunk cabbage, moss, and deer fern. Where the slope began to steadily climb, it opened up into the saturated muskeg we were becoming so well acquainted with. The ground was thick with a bed of sphagnum moss, dotted with heathers and club moss. The trees were the usual cedars and stunted pines, beautifully gnarled against the backdrop of stormy skies. We came across a few critters, including this yellow-spotted or cyanide millipede, as it's commonly known. The dark coloration of its body and yellow-tipped keels warn of its ability to exude toxic hydrogen cyanide as a defense against predators. We also came across a plant I had been hoping and dreaming I'd one day get to see in real life. Sundews. Sundews are probably one of the coolest plants ever. They tend to grow in wetland areas with acidic soil and high levels of sunlight, areas where nitrogen is not typically available within the soil. In order to offset their environment's lack of this important nutrient, they are actually a carnivorous plant. Sundews have leaves tipped with sticky glands, which they use to attract and trap their prey. There are over 150 species of sundew throughout the world, and each has its own way of successfully ensnaring its prey. So, not only are these little plants cute, they are also deadly. And who doesn't love a plant that eats mosquitoes and black flies? so much for joining us for this episode. Our dream is to sail the world with our sights set on the more remote areas, typically the less popular and more challenging cruising destinations. We hope to explore and share with you our journey into the wild places and give you an inside look at the plants and animals that call those places home. If you want to support our channel, the best way to do so is to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video and this channel with others you think will enjoy it too. Thanks again, and hopefully we'll see you next time.